Ladies and gents, there's no shock. Real Madrid have won their 15th European Cup. I must admit, I'm not just saying this, the Champions League has lost some of its magic for me. Similar to the Premier League, I'm quite bored of the same old teams winning it all the time. No disrespect to Real Madrid, congratulations. By far the best team in Europe, probably the world. But I do fear for the Champions League next season when the format changes and when you get more of the bigger teams facing the smaller teams, therefore more of a chance for those bigger teams to reach the final. So don't get me wrong, having the Champions League final at Wembley this year was fantastic, but similar to the Premier League, my interest in the competition has been dwindling over the years. Is it just me who's losing interest, and will the Champions League get better or worse under the new format next season? The group stage is gone. Currently we have 32 teams divided into 8 groups of 4, but next season 36 teams will compete in one single league. A Super League, I suppose. Now that sounds familiar. Now, according to the UEFA website, they've said the new 2024-25 format will deliver the best for clubs, players and fans in that specific order, which probably comes as no shock to you watching this, as we know money is the dictating factor when it comes to decision making in modern football. The worry for me is the elitism, the gap widening between the elite clubs like Real Madrid and the rest. I'm not hating on Real Madrid, by the way. They've won everything there is to win from being the very best team in the game, but the same clubs sharing the same trophies year after year is not great for the consumer, us fans. What's your name and where'd you come from?
Devon Mackham.
As we mentioned, the slight change in format next season, I know we spoke a little bit off camera. What are your first impressions? You've heard about the whole change to a league format. Do you think the Champions League needs a change?
I don't actually think it did. I didn't see what was wrong with the structure at all. I liked when they introduced the new the Conference League. Was that 2 years ago now? I liked that they introduced that because it made teams, like, for example, West Ham. But
so you think rather than change the Champions League format to get those smaller teams in, the fact that they've created another competition which allows smaller teams to play European football is a good thing in itself?
I just think it was quite happy. I could like how it was. I liked the group kind of style. You only had to come at the first or second and you could get in. Then you drop your third and you just drop down to the next European League. And then it's only if you finish bottom that they're out altogether.
Like Manchester United.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the change of format was needed. Even Jamie Carragher, who works as a Champions League pundit, raised the question a while back on whether the Champions League was getting a bit boring. He did make a good point actually on the away goal rule, the power of the away goal. Who misses the away goal? I certainly do. In the new league system, teams will each play 8 games against 8 different opponents. UEFA have said this gives opportunity for clubs to test themselves against a wider range of opponents and raises the prospect for fans of seeing the top teams go head to head more often. Now I get that on first impression this seems about the fans, but we know in reality it's more about the money, and it's exactly what the Super League was going to cash in on. For me personally, I've got a less is more opinion. I think when these top teams come up against each other often, it loses its spark. We've seen Man City versus Real Madrid 2 seasons in a row, it's good, but if we were to see that game routinely every single year, the allure, the spark would definitely dwindle. So for me, that's not such a good thing. The aspect of the new competition which I think has gone under the radar is this: to strengthen the synergy between the league and the knockout stages and to provide more sporting incentive during the league phase. The pairings of the knockout phase will also be partly determined by the league phase rankings, with a draw which likewise determines and lays out the route for teams to reach the final. To translate that basically means that all the bigger, better, stronger teams will be kind of separated. If we take this past season in the Champions League, for example, we had the likes of Real Madrid, Manchester City, Arsenal and Bayern Munich all on one side of the journey to the final, which meant they all came up against each other prior to the final, which again made favourites like Man City get knocked out long before obviously they wanted to. But with the new format, with the whole seeding and ranking system off the back of the league part of the competition, you're unlikely to get that to happen. For example, Borussia Dortmund defied the odds, got to the final this year, despite only finishing 5th in the Bundesliga. With the new format and the kind of rankings based on performance and how they did in the league stage, you're less likely to get teams like Dortmund, underdogs, making their way to the final. So this is the kind of what I'm trying to get at in this video. Obviously, grumpy old blokes like myself, I've got to that stage in my life where I'm reminiscing about old times and the good old days. But the reality is, has it always been similar to this? Obviously, United dominated in the 90s, 2000s, Liverpool the 70s and 80s. I moan about the Premier League, as you say, becoming predictable and boring. And now the Champions League, sorry, never the Championship. The Championship's always exciting. The Champions League getting boring. But again, is it now any different than it's ever been? Again, that's another question, mate. What do you reckon?
It's hard because it changed a lot since like the 90s, 80s, etc. It's all just about the money now. It does show, though, at the same time that you could be one of the richest clubs in the world, or the richest club in the world, and still not make European football. Newcastle.
Wow. Yeah. Speaking of Newcastle, so I'm going to get into that in the video. I think if we are to have that kind of elite closed shop mentality whereby the same teams are in the Champions League and stuff, I think the only way that can work is if FFP basically buggers off, if it gives other teams the opportunity to spend more in order to compete with England's top 6, Real Madrid and stuff. Are we always going to get the same English teams in the Champions League? Do you think FFP needs to kind of ease up a bit in order to break the mould?
I think if that eased off, I believe football will get just absolutely ridiculous with the amount of signings, and you end up seeing players go for like £1 billion, for example, like if there was no FFP.
This again refers to the title of this video. You're going to get fewer teams like Dortmund who have had an easier path this season. You're not going to get them get into the final as often. So, with that in mind, is the Champions League again favouring the elite? And are we going to routinely get the same teams like Real Madrid get into the final and therefore winning the competition? UEFA have said they're fully committed to respecting the fundamental values of sport and to defending the key principle of open competitions with qualification based on sporting merit. That's all well and good, but in order for clubs further down the ladder to break the mould, the monopoly the big clubs hold at the moment, they're going to need a fairer battlefield. They're going to need the same weapons to compete with. I was all for financial fair play when it came in, but now the world has changed. Obviously money, it's been money for a while. Money is the dictating factor. In order for clubs to compete with the likes of Manchester City, Real Madrid and so on, even in their own domestic leagues, you're going to need to change the rules a little bit. Financial fair play is going to have to change. If you just look at clubs like Everton and Forest, who this past season have been punished for trying to compete in an incredibly competitive league, the Premier League, and soon Leicester, who've just been promoted, they're likely to get docked points, they're likely to be punished for overspending as well. I think we do need to look at our domestic leagues in order to kind of change the top. Everything links, everything's synergised. Our beautiful game has already been taken out of the hands of the working class, and instead it's become a money-making tourist attraction like Disneyland. That's not going to change, but all I'm asking is give us, working class, give us football fans who love the beautiful game, a ride, a roller coaster to enjoy. It's not Real Madrid's fault they're bloody class. It's not Real Madrid's fault they keep winning the Champions League. They're running away with the record, and they are the best club football team in the world. But football is entertainment. It's there for everyone to enjoy. So in order to enjoy these moments, even Real Madrid fans, they're going to want competition. Ladies and gents, let us know what you think in the comments below. What I've said in this video isn't necessarily correct. I'm merely raising the point, starting a nice friendly debate, because believe it or not, ladies and gents, in 2024 we can have a friendly debate, we can have a difference of opinion, we can shake our hands at the end, have a couple of points, it's all good. We all love the beautiful game of football, bring on the Euros, and I'm very much intrigued to see how the new format of the Champions League will play out in the 24-25 season. But again, if we're to make an early pick, with the fact that Real Madrid are going to have Mbappe, Endrick and various other signings this summer, it's not looking good for other teams, is it? You're an absolute legend. Final question, mate. Yeah. Who is winning it next season? Early prediction.
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid again.
Like you said, with them, if they do get, and it isn't confirmed that they've got Mbappe yet, is it? But if they do...
Well, it's not officially, but Fabrizio Romano has broke it, and obviously he's rarely wrong, so...
For him to step up and kind of go to La Liga, I can't see Real Madrid then not winning the Champions League, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm going to go Real Madrid again.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in one of these videos on screen right now. I'll see you there.